Every family has a golden child. And then there is the joke. For 32 years I was that joke. My name is Gibson, and every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every birthday party I sat at the table while my Aunt Patricia reminded everyone how her son Derek was destined for greatness. Meanwhile, she looked at me with pity, sometimes contempt. But at last year's reunion she was bragging about Derek's amazing new job at a successful tech company. She had no idea I was the one signing his paycheck. Before I tell you this story, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your location in the comments below. And if you have ever been the underdog in your family, the one nobody believed in, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Because what I am about to share might just change the way you see your own journey. Now let me take you back to where it all began. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knows your business before you do. My mom, Linda, worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over our heads. During the day, she stood behind a cash register at the local supermarket, scanning groceries with a smile that hid how exhausted she was. At night, she cleaned office buildings downtown, coming home after midnight with her back aching and her hands raw from chemicals. My father left when I was 7 years old. Just walked out one morning and never came back. No note, no phone call, nothing. And that absence became a stain that my Aunt Patricia never let us forget. You see, Aunt Patricia was my mom's older sister. She married Uncle Frank, a certified public accountant who made good money. They lived in a nice house in the suburbs, drove new cars, and sent their son Derek to private school. Aunt Patricia never had to work a day in her life. She spent her time organizing charity events and telling everyone how blessed her family was. Derek was 18 months younger than me, but you would think he was royalty the way Aunt Patricia talked about him. He had private tutors, piano lessons, tennis coaches, everything handed to him on a silver platter. Meanwhile, I wore hand-me-down clothes, rode the school bus for 45 minutes each way, and ate free lunch because we qualified for the program. Every family gathering was the same. Aunt Patricia would parade Derek around like a show horse, listing his accomplishments. Honor roll, student council, debate team captain. And then she would glance at me with that look, that mixture of pity and disappointment, as if my mere existence was an embarrassment to the family name. I remember one Thanksgiving when I was 12 years old. We were all seated around the big table at Aunt Patricia's house. The turkey was golden and perfect. The china was spotless, and Aunt Patricia was holding court as usual. She turned to me in front of everyone and said, "Gibson, what do you plan to do with your life? Your father never amounted to anything. I hope you do not follow in his footsteps." The table went silent. My mom's face turned red and I could see tears forming in her eyes, but she did not say anything. She never stood up to her older sister. Years of being made to feel inferior had beaten that fight out of her. But under the table I felt a warm hand squeeze mine. It was Grandma Rose, my grandmother on my mom's side. She leaned close and whispered, "Do not listen to her, sweetheart. I believe in you." Grandma Rose was the only person in that family who ever made me feel like I was worth something. She saw past the shabby clothes and the absent father. She saw me. When I graduated high school, the contrast could not have been more stark. Derek finished as valedictorian of his private school. He got a full scholarship to a prestigious university on the East Coast. Aunt Patricia threw him a massive graduation party, invited the whole extended family, and spent the entire evening telling everyone about his bright future. When someone asked about me, Aunt Patricia waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, Gibson graduated too. He will probably end up in some factory job or something. Not everyone is meant for college." I heard her say it. I was standing just around the corner, holding a plate of food I suddenly had no appetite for. I swallowed hard, blinked back the sting in my eyes, and made myself a silent promise. One day, I would prove her wrong. Years later, at a cousin's wedding, the pattern continued. I was 24 by then, working as a low-level information technology support technician. The pay was barely enough to cover rent on my tiny apartment, but I was surviving. Derek had just finished his Master of Business Administration degree and was bragging about job offers from top consulting firms. Aunt Patricia made sure everyone knew. She introduced him to every guest like he was a celebrity. "This is my son, Derek. He just got his MBA and is joining McKinsey." When someone asked what I did for a living, Aunt Patricia jumped in before I could answer. "Gibson does something with computers. Fixing them, I think. It is good he has a job at all, considering." "Considering what?" Considering my father left, considering my mom was poor, considering I was not born into her perfect little world, that night, I went back to my studio apartment. It was barely 400 square feet with a mattress on the floor and a desk I had found on the curb. I sat in the dark for a long time, staring at a framed photo of Grandma Rose. She had passed away 6 months earlier, and I missed her terribly. I remembered her words. "You have something Derek does not have. You know the value of real hard work." In that moment I made a decision. I would not argue with Aunt Patricia. I would not defend myself. I would not waste energy on words. Instead, I would build something. I would prove my worth through actions, not arguments. And I would do it quietly without anyone knowing until the time was right. The first year was brutal. I kept my day job doing information technology support, but every night after work, I taught myself to code. I watched free tutorials online, read programming books from the library, and practiced until 2 or 3 in the morning. My social life disappeared. My weekends vanished. But slowly I started to get good. I met Marcus at a local programmer meetup when I was 25. He was a natural salesman with an idea for project management software designed for small and medium businesses. The problem was, he could not code. I could. We talked for hours that first night, sketching ideas on napkins, getting excited about possibilities. We decided to start a company together. I put in $15,000, which was every penny I had saved, plus a small loan that terrified me to take. Marcus matched it. Our office was his garage. Our employees were just the two of us. Our work hours were whatever time we had after our real jobs ended. The first year we almost gave up a dozen times. There were months when we could not pay ourselves. I sold my car to keep the company alive and started taking the bus everywhere. Some weeks I survived on ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches, but we kept going. We launched our first product and slowly customers started signing up. First 5, then 20, then 100. By the third year we landed a contract with a mid-sized manufacturing company. It was our biggest deal yet, enough to finally rent a real office and hire our first employees. I remember standing in that empty office space, looking out the window at the city below, and feeling like maybe, just maybe, this was going to work. Years 4 through 7 were a rocket ship. Our software spread through word of mouth. Companies recommended us to other companies. We hired more developers, more salespeople, more support staff. The revenue grew tenfold, then tenfold again. Investors started calling. We closed a Series A funding round, then a Series B. Suddenly, we were not just a scrappy startup anymore. We were a real company with a real valuation, and I was the chief executive officer. Through all of it, I kept my personal life invisible. When I visited my mom back in Ohio, I drove my old car that I had bought back after we became profitable. I wore the same simple clothes. When anyone asked what I did, I just said, still working with computers. My mom knew the truth. She had visited my office, seen the company, met my team, but I asked her to keep it secret, and she understood why. She knew what Aunt Patricia was like. Speaking of Aunt Patricia, she never bothered to ask about my life. At family gatherings, she still talked about Derek constantly. He had left McKinsey after 3 years and bounced between several other companies. From what I heard, he was good at talking, but not so good at delivering results. But in Aunt Patricia's telling, he was always just between opportunities, waiting for the perfect role. Then about 18 months ago, something happened that I never expected. Derek applied for a job at my company. I was sitting in my corner office reviewing emails when our head of human resources forwarded me a resume for a senior position, business development manager. I glanced at the name and felt my heart stop. Derek Morrison, my cousin, Aunt Patricia's golden boy. I sat there for 10 minutes just staring at the screen. Part of me wanted to delete the application immediately. Another part was curious, and a deeper part, the part shaped by Grandma Rose, wanted to be fair. I called Marcus into my office and told him everything. The family history, the years of humiliation, the complicated feelings I had about this situation. Marcus listened, then asked, "What do you want to do?" I thought about it. Let him interview like anyone else. If he is qualified, we hire him. I will not let personal history affect a business decision. Marcus nodded. That is why I work with you. Derek went through our standard interview process. He did not know I was involved because I deliberately stayed away. Our hiring team evaluated him on his merits. His presentation skills were polished, his resume was impressive on paper, and he passed the threshold. He got the job. For the next 6 months, Derek worked on a different floor in a different department. He had seen the CEO from a distance a few times, but never made the connection. To be fair, we had not seen each other face to face in years, and I had changed a lot. I was no longer the skinny, nervous kid he remembered. Plus, I used my full legal name at work, Gibson James Turner, while to family I had always just been Gibson Turner. I tracked his performance through reports. He was adequate. Not exceptional, not terrible, just average. But I never interfered, never gave him special treatment or special scrutiny. Then Thanksgiving rolled around and Aunt Patricia announced she was hosting. My mom called and asked if I would come. I had been avoiding family gatherings for years, making excuses about work. But something felt different this time. Maybe it was because I had nothing left to prove to myself. Maybe it was because I wanted my mom to finally see me stand tall in front of her sister. I decided to go. And I decided that this time I would not hide who I was. The morning of Thanksgiving, I stood in front of my closet and deliberately chose simple clothes. A plain button-down shirt, dark jeans, my old leather jacket. No flashy watch, no designer labels. I wanted to walk in looking exactly like the Gibson they expected to see. I drove my old car, the one I had bought back years ago, and kept for sentimental reasons. It had over 150,000 miles on it, a few dents, and a small rust spot on the back fender. Perfect. I stopped to buy a bottle of wine as a gift. The woman at the wine shop helped me select a vintage Bordeaux, something special. It cost $400, but unless you knew wine, you would never guess. The label was understated, almost plain. I liked the irony. The drive to Aunt Patricia's house took about 2 hours. She lived in a nice suburban neighborhood, the kind with manicured lawns and homeowner association rules about what color you could paint your mailbox. I pulled up and parked my beat-up car right next to Derek's BMW, a gleaming silver sedan that probably cost more than he could actually afford. Aunt Patricia met me at the door. She looked at my car, then at me, and gave that familiar smile, the one that was not really a smile. Gibson. You still have that old thing. Well, I suppose if it runs, it runs. Come in, come in. I handed her the wine. She glanced at the label without recognition and set it aside with the cheaper bottles on the counter. Inside the house was decorated for the holiday. A big turkey sat on the dining table. Family members milled around the living room. I spotted my mom sitting on the couch looking nervous. When she saw me, she stood up quickly and wrapped me in a tight hug.